Hello. Hey, people. I'm Martin Q with the Strategic Retreat, and today I'll be reacting to SsethTzeentach's Rise of Legends review, Italian trademark edition trademark. So this is my first experience doing some a reaction content that's this informal. I've done reactions to the Summer Game Fest 2023, and those were official streams, and there's all this protocol for how to react to it on Twitch and stuff. But for YouTube content, where it's a content creator is just a guy, it's not a full-on corporation or something. Aside from the Merchants Guild, I guess. But yeah, you're just giving credit, links, and all that, and you're basically riding the popularity of everybody who's following Seth and wants to vicariously enjoy that community of, aha, we share the memes. We are also familiar. Basically, like everybody in a movie theater reacting at the same moments and stuff. That's a whole rant about reaction content, um, but yeah, I figured I could start this. I watched all of his previous reviews. I've watched this one as well, sadly, but I was hoping to remember my first impressions of several of his moments and also give my feedback on some of the stories he shares and how he feels and all that. So yeah, that's basically it. But Seth's hilarious. His tastes in games, we share a lot of them. Um, Maybe not quite the same uh, politically incorrect sort of humor, uh, but still, he's proven he's pretty intelligent, and I do still share a lot of his ideas and his way of looking at things, internet cynicism and whatnot. Um, so yeah, as far as that's my background with Seth, as far as the game, let me see. So yeah, I'll make sure they're all in the frame. I got pamphlets for Rise of Nations. It's like Rise of Nations Thrones and Patriots Gold Edition. It's like a full-on user manual. I forget where the box for this came from, or where I put it. There's a CD case. Like these are all things I could play again right now, probably if I wanted. And then you see Glare. Yeah, Rise of Legends box. So it's freaking sweet. Um, yeah, I might have the manual for that one as well, but I might it's probably in a box somewhere. But yeah, I've played through it, loved it. As far as I can recall, I was either in middle school or early high school, and I saw an advertisement for the game in a one of the gaming magazines I was subscribed to at the time. Yeah, imagine reading for the articles and just like bunch of a lot of funny articles about the games and stuff. So I saw it. I saw the art. Saw it described as I had probably said something like RTS. So as somebody who was playing Command and Conquer, Red Alert 2 and Yuri's Revenge, and I believe StarCraft around that time, it caught my eye, and the aesthetics for the different factions, sci-fi or steampunk, fantasy, magic, and alien tech. It really stood out, and I made enough of a fuss that my family got it for me, and I played it through, and I loved it. So in any case, time to get to Seth's review.
Hey people, Seth here. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, younger me was visiting Latin America. While there, I stumbled upon a bootleg video game store.
Love is
To
a
put things
fanfic.
into perspective, I paid a total of $5. In exchange, I got Titan Quest, burnt on a blank CD, Russian Half-Life 2, which I finished without understanding a single word, Russian Serious Sam 2, which was actually just malware, but also I got this little disc containing not Rise of Nations, but the sci-fi fantasy steampunk spin-off Rise of Legends, released.
All right. So yeah, I'm pretty sheltered, so I don't I never really got into bootleg stores or something like that. But the closest I got was on a family trip um, just going into a game shop, and it must have been like secondhand stuff. So it's fairly boring, and I just get like uh getting like the original Fallout 1 and 2, yeah, out of a used bin or something. The closest to actual bootleg is probably my uncle, who is the one who got me into a lot of games, and he provided me with a lot of burned CDs and stuff of whatever he was playing or interested in. And so, yeah, there are there are emulators and different games that I could probably access again if I wanted to dig those out of the shelf. But yeah, nothing quite as hardcore as what Seth usually does.
2006 and covered 17 years later, which by personal standards is a quick and timely review. Rise of Legends is a game I hold close to my heart. First of all, I don't actually have a disc anymore, so I torrented a copy, installed it, found out it was entirely in Russian, which I should have guessed from the installer, looking the way it is, downloaded an English copy instead, and that told me to insert disc 1. So I copied the executable from the Russian copy to the English copy, and finally, it launched. Moral of the story, graft shit together until it works. Speaking of which,
So yeah, with me having the disc, I don't have to do that just yet, but I know that eventually there's going to be some weird operating system compatibility problem, or the disc itself is just going to gradually, get scratched and break down. And I haven't used any torrents and stuff yet. Again, goody two shoes, sheltered boy, but yeah, I think there's a natural fear of that, of downloading malware and all that, and just I'm lucky I'm sort of okay enough to buy the occasional game, especially with the Steam sales and whatnot. But yeah, I haven't had to do that yet. But I know that eventually, with some of this abandonware, that's going to be the only way that you can really get access to it.
this game runs perfectly on Windows 10, flawlessly, impeccably, and I can literally see the pixels for the pre-rendered cutscenes. Anyway, setting. We're on some planet. Which one? I don't know, because video game bootleggers in Rio typically don't give you a manual. So, I'm kind of just making this up as I go along. An alien ship breaks up in orbit and crash lands onto the planet. And that's all the background you get. Now, 99% of this game is the campaign, which is mainly what I'm going to cover. So let's start by playing the Vinci. Who are the Vinci? In this world, there are no humans, only Italians. Accordingly, everyone is Italian, everything is industrialized, and tensions are running high. This game is pasta-punk, ravioli core, if you will. You play as Giacomo, an inventor from the city-state of Miana, governed by his brother Petruzzo. Together with General Carlini, your army sets out to investigate an alien crash site. Seeing your approach, a rival known as the Doge blasts.
Alright, so just to address the elephant in the room, yeah, as soon as the Doge was mentioned and all the memories came flooding back, modern internet humor being what it is, I also assumed, like many others, that, oh yeah, he's gonna make some sort of Doge meme joke or Doge coin, and I'm pretty proud of Seth that he managed to avoid doing that. Yeah, like, sometimes if the joke is so obvious, it seems like you want to say what everybody else is thinking, and that sort of satisfies everybody with yeah, we're on the same wavelength. On the other hand, there's also that slight chance that, oh, it's so obvious that it loses some of that humor value, so you get more out of subverting it by just not doing that. So it's pretty great.
The mountainside using an alien weapon. Petruzzo throws you to safety, but in doing so, he becomes a pancake. As you watch Petruzzo marinate in his own ragu, you vow to get vengeance on the Doge. The first two missions serve as a hands-on tutorial to get acquainted with the core mechanics. You control any number of units, tactics matter, and each of your heroes have unique abilities on preset cooldowns. Winning the game involves conquering a rival's cities, while holding on to your own, which you have to manually expand by building specific districts. You have two main resources, Timonium.
So yeah, when I first started playing Rise of Legends, it was a pretty big departure because I'd played Rise of Nations, and Rise of Nations is much more standardized, where you place down a city center, and then you build out a couple of rectangles and squares of your other buildings and upgrades from there. It's just, oh yeah, that's an RTS base builder, and then suddenly this game creates this node system where you have this city center, and then you just attach a district on the outside of it. And yeah, it was just a nice aesthetic difference, I suppose. Because again, so many others are just place new block, place new block.
And gold, timonium, similar to cobalt, is extracted from the ground by Congolese miners who do it simply for the love of extracting rare earth metals to fuel the Italian war machine. Gold,
He's got timonium. He's got the blue lung, Pops.
is obtained by building merchant districts. Each one allows you to make a single caravan, which will automatically trade with the nearest neutral settlement. The longer you trade, the larger your trade deficit, which you can use to forcibly buy out the entire neutral dwelling. This is the peaceful option. You pay gold, the price of which goes down depending on how much you've traded already, and in exchange, we get a functional dwelling and all the troops defending it. This system makes sense, except in the second campaign, where for some reason I could buy out an entire nest of carnivorous salamanders, which goes to show, doesn't matter how evolved you are, you're not immune to the free market. There's also...
Freaking capitalism. Yeah. Ludonarrative dissonance.
Industrial districts, which give you mutually exclusive prototypes, and military districts, which are exactly as they sound. They increase your population cap, allowing you to take shit over using the less peaceful option. This involves breaking shit until you start taking it over. If you're very impatient, or there's a tactical advantage from doing so, you can click the number that appears in the center to forcibly storm the dwelling, taking immediate control. This is incredibly expensive, as you sacrifice an equal number of grunts, but hey, you get to see physics particle effects as everything breaks apart. This shit looked photorealistic when I saw it for the first time. I was thinking, damn, I wonder how crazy video games will be in the future. Little did I know, I had Overwatch 2 paid PvE Season 1 to look forward to. Originally,
So yeah, the physics from my memories of playing the game, pretty much when you deal a huge chunk of damage to the city, a proportionate amount of stuff breaks off of it, which, again, that's just pleasant to watch. It's basically the same sort of pleasure you get from Dark Souls when you roll through a bunch of the barrels and boxes, and it just stacks that breaking noise over itself. And stuff, because yeah, it'll have this rubble breaking sound effect multiplied by, and if you do a big enough hit, multiplied by 10 or 20 pieces of a massive city falling over.
Giacomo starts on a horse, but in Mission 2, you get a considerable upgrade to your vehicle. Get into Eva, Giacomo, or Carlini will have to fight again. After attempting or succeeding a mission, you get taken to the Overland map, and time progresses by 1 turn. Here, you can choose your next move, spend experience on upgrading heroes, army points on buying units, research points to unlock new units, and economy points on districts for occupied territory. The last part is really interesting, because when you attack territories adjacent to your own, reinforcements will pour in from surrounding territories, depending on the number and type of district. Anyway, moving on.
So this one was familiar to me because I didn't play through all of them, but Rise of Nations did have these sort of campaigns or scenarios, and those usually took place on this sort of risk-style map. And so, yeah, moving your main force around and manipulating territories was a bit familiar, but still love the persistent mechanics in between all of these skirmishes and unique scenarios here. And yeah, he's already hinted at saving up resources for research, hero upgrades, and your army.
We make an assault on Parada, who are being blockaded by Vidosia's Skycrusher, a gigantic surface-to-air battery. This is an issue for the faction, since their main export is a paper-thin aircraft based off a sketch by Da Vinci. We counter his wicked machinations by walking, and win the support of Parada. More importantly, we win the support of Lenora, Parada captain, and the person who's going to crush Giacomo's head between her thighs in the post-game credits.
So yeah, a lot of games, the waifu material. She's attractive. Sadly, not. I guess it's all personal taste, but I preferred the other waifu that Seth will get into. But she's great. Air units. I always felt like she didn't do enough damage, but whatever. Her it's supposed to be one of her primary abilities. But yeah, Seth's personal shipping with the fanfiction stuff at the start, and then again more internet humor about like mommies and all that, just crushing heads between thighs. Like, God, I wish that were me. As she like destroys something in her flyer.
Maybe. On one condition.
More what?
And when you finally have the Doge, make sure he suffers.
I fucking love this cutscene. Each time there's something pre-rendered on screen, it's always hype. Next, we...
So yeah, that intro cutscene is one of the coolest. Definitely, I mean, when it was still fine, but it's obviously very polygonal. The in-engine cutscenes, but yeah, the pre-rendered stuff is surprisingly great still.
We have a pressing issue. Two of them, actually. Don Scalario and Lord Rocco. These act as the puppets of the Doge, with Scalario providing financial support from the western city of Foligno, while Rocco is the key supplier of timonium to the north. Before we can assault the Doge's capital of Venucci, we need to sever these sources of support. Honestly, I don't think this affects the campaign, and I don't care. I care more about the fact that these guys steal territory every single turn. So, we're gonna make a beeline for Rocco. On the way there, we conquer Condottieri Castle and unify the Condottieri. In the real world, this word means mercenaries fighting for Italian states. In Rise of Legends, this means unhinged, unwashed, feral Italians. These are tribalistic primitives who eat their pasta completely raw, snapping the pasta bone to drink the delicious marrow inside. After that, we enter Monte...
So, kind of confession on, like, I'm not the kind who cares a lot for proper cooking. I enjoy it, but there's so many things, other things going on, that I get a little utilitarian about it sometimes. And yeah, there have been times where it's like the noodles are sticking up out of a pot, and I didn't really wait for the water at the bottom to slowly droop the noodles down in. It's just like, I don't particularly care if this noodle is longer when I finally twirl it around a fork or something. So yeah, I just kind of crunched it down, just like, I'm gonna be done with the meal so I can get back to gaming. So I don't know, hopefully that doesn't make me some sort of Italian food heretic, but just there's so many other things. As far as Condottieri, I never really did more research. I guess this is more parts of content creation about like knowing everything about the publisher and the developer and specific turns. That's actually a reference to this other thing. It's not just Italian sounding name. So good on you, Seth.
Laguna, which is under siege by self-driving clockwork. New Tesla update dropped, and unfortunately, it's misidentifying Italians as Sicilians. We gotta take down the fabricators, and subsequently, whatever this is. Next, we go to the...
Yeah, and I mean, the spaceship crashing at the start is probably also a SpaceX thing or whatever. Then the aliens hit one of the satellites or rockets. Really got to thank Elon Musk for starting this, the entire campaign, really.
Same region where Petruzzo was murdered. To pay respects? No. To do a timed mining objective, but mainly so I can progress time by another turn. Why? Because I've been stacking research points to unlock the Juggernaut, and I've been stacking army points to fill my army with Juggernauts. It's worth explaining at this point that larger units can trample smaller units, and a fucking tank is significantly larger than most units. When half my damage is just right-clicking past the enemy, I got a pretty good deal. Anyway, on to Rocco's capital. This is...
So yeah, that was all the military persistent stuff that he was hinting at earlier. And, I mean, and really, it's a pretty unique system. I don't think there's a lot of games that do that. Apparently, the Total War Hammer games have stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, units impact each other, but a lot of games I'd seen didn't really account for that. And not in the way this game did. There's like a unit in Command & Conquer, Red Alert 2, Yuri's Revenge, like some Battle Fortress that could like run over units. I mean, yeah, the tanks in the Command & Conquer games could run over infantry, but it was never really portrayed like this. And that was like a kind of an insta-kill mechanic. Whereas here, it is actually calculating damage because infantry that's still trampleable, but beefy enough, they will actually survive that knockback and they'll get back up. So yeah, it is a calculation, but it's still incredibly powerful. It's really reminiscent of some of the Warhammer 40k games where you have melee and it's disruptive, right? So then in this game, yeah, you choose a large enough trample unit and you just move forward into the mass of enemy troops, and you're just committed to the fight, and your benefit is taking out a huge number of their cannon fodder.
The same place we get Distruzio, who is simultaneously the best and the worst hero in the entire game. Aside from Giacomo, he's the only person with a wide radius heal, and he's also the only hero with a small, negligible chance at throwing the wrong grenade. He's my favorite hero because there's literally nobody else who's managed to make me rage quit and restart a scenario multiple times, and yet I still pick him every time. The mission itself...
So yeah, I didn't use him all that much because of that RNG ability, but it was great seeing all these unique heroes in the campaign and tailoring them to your playstyles. And yeah, having another person who could do an AoE heal and AoE damage, and occasionally he throws the opposite grenade. I utilized a picture of Distruzio when there was some sort of joke in the Super Best Friends playthrough or something where one of them was confusing a medkit for a grenade, and yeah, that was the character that immediately came to mind. And on their subreddit, I got a couple of comments about like, oh my gosh, somebody else who remembers Rise of Legends. So, you know, all it takes is a prominent YouTuber with 1.25 million subscribers to suddenly get everybody back in here with a 1 million view video within 2 days. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe this will be a surge of players revisiting it or discovering it.
Is pretty easy because Distruzio's forces take most of the heat and buy you time to build free juggernauts and pound Rocco's base into oblivion. One puppet down, one more to go. We head south for Corbinile Mines, which have already been captured by Scladio. Some maps don't have a specific scenario or objective, instead playing like a standard skirmish map in single player. The difference being that I spawn in with 2 juggernauts, which means I right-click his base and come back to a victory screen. We assault Foligno, which has
it saves you a lot of time
on a mountain, forcing us to slowly travel economy on a zeppelin to actually get there. Along the way, we can also rescue some captured prisoners, which include Battaglion, a hero who can one-shot cities. Despite this insane power level, freeing him is completely optional. You see, to finish a mission, you only need to complete the main objective. Bonus objectives are take it or leave it. You might miss them and not even know what exactly you missed. That's why every time I do a mission, I peek the quest log. If I see any random question marks in the bonus section, I know there's something out there. 2 Stooges gone, now we just have to deal with the Doge.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much how I did it. Just eventually you reach a point where it's not like you were going to use a scout unit to scour the entire map in the hopes of running into the start of a quest. And I mean, the developers could have been so much meaner of like, oh, you gotta find it yourself. You never know. It's that the thrill of discovery and stuff like that. It's like at a certain point, it's just out of respect for people's time. To just see question mark, who knows what that could be.
Which is harder than it sounds. As we took Foligno, Doge took Monte Laguna. I tried retaking it, but his walker is insanely OP, so I reloaded and took Souleye Forest instead. Doge pushes again and takes Corbinile Mines, but this time I learned how to properly micro my troops. Also, I had free Juggernauts. This may have helped. We push on to Dursey, which is a timed prison break scenario. Also, my
yeah, he is a pretty big difficulty spike. I forget how much the AI armies that you fight are also operating on a persistent army, but pretty much the persistent army that you carry, you just kind of have to hope that you've got enough and that they're upgraded and your heroes are leveled that you can survive. Because yeah, if the enemy starts with just as large, if not a larger army than you, then you're just playing another skirmish map, and that can be a toss-up if the AI is good enough and you're not well practiced against it. The odds of them being able to take cities and outproduce you by the time you reach them. So yeah, that and the Doge being a leveled hero and sniping your big units like that is a very real threat.
My recording software broke for like 20 minutes, and it sounds like this.
I have confirmed that some of the Doge's own magistrates are being held here. They must have disagreed with his latest policies.
Basically, we have to rescue a bunch of magistrates he's imprisoned to loose.
Yeah, I don't really know a lot of the tech issue stuff. I run things through OBS, a simple headset mic, my one PC setup, and that seems to work for me. Obviously, there's people who have way more complicated stuff, and I don't know. I worry. Sometimes I feel like that's diminishing returns, and it's really cool, but it's I don't know. It just seems like a big headache.
Loosen his political grip on the.
Oh yeah, also about Destruzio, I forgot to mention that yeah, he gets the mascot character with his little mecha there, and yeah, he's pretty beloved. Great. A lot of probably just could be an easily marketable plushie. This guy transforms into like a scout mode, a battle mode, and a siege mode. Yeah. I think he's in siege mode right now.
Reinforcements show up and murder us. Afterwards, we take Ranconi, which is only accessible by bridge. The Doge attempts to block our advance by sending a truck of peace, which we counter with a tank of love and tolerance. Finally, we.
Okay, I'm pausing a lot, but I do have a lot of context for this. I recall, I hope I didn't Mandela effect myself with this, but I kind of recall there must have been an ad. Maybe it was on. I recall seeing a video, because it was a mechanic that was tied to the starting cinematic, where I don't know, spoilers for the starting intro. For the intro cinematic, there's a guy who blows up a bridge while a bunch of enemies are on it, and they plummet to their deaths. And as I recall, there must have been like trailers or something that was showcasing blowing up bridges, and a bunch of enemies would fall off of it, and they probably tossed that mechanic out because that was too crazy of a power difference. It's just like send a single artillery shell overwatching the bridge, and you would destroy an army many times your size of your one lone artillery unit or something. So yeah, like in the main game, you are not able to do that. A bit of a shame, but I guess I mean you can see why, but it wasn't even in but yeah, anything outside of the campaign, and I think that's unique to that scenario. A bit of a shame, but not the first time a game's had a mechanic shown off, and then they just couldn't resolve it by the time the full game was released, and it's cut or scaled back. Obviously, stuff like Cyberpunk and No Man's Sky and stuff, we've got bigger problems than a minor mechanic like that, but it's yeah,
We invade
just to start.
Venucci, take out his land leviathan, capture his Doge cannon, and point it directly at his troops. But Vidoge is nowhere to be found.
The Doge. Where is he? Where's his army? A child could have won this battle.
Carlini gives you the dire news.
These look like tracks from the Doge's hammer.
They are.
But we captured it. When did...
He built more than one. We captured a decoy. The real one is headed east. He drew us out, Giacomo.
We've been tricked. The real Doge cannon is heading east towards Miana. And that's the end of the first campaign. Let's start the second. Spoiler, we didn't make it on time. Miana has been deleted from existence. Inexplicably, after committing Italian Nagasaki, the Doge's army marches east through the desert kingdoms of the Aline. And we set out in hot pursuit. Speaking of hot, we're not built for this environment. We need shelter, and we need it fast. So we decide to take the help of a mystic who is definitely not going to betray us.
Even the noblest of people can be corrupted by power, Giacomo.
5 minutes later, the mystic betrays us. Luckily, we're saved by Ari, Giacomo's childhood friend, and taken to the court of Azar Harif, where we get shelter and a bit of backstory.
You sure
Dear Lord, the backstory.
seem to know your way around.
I visited here a long time ago.
Visited? Try ran away. Took us 4 months to find him, and we could barely drag him home.
Giacomo!
I liked it here.
I bet you did.
Lenora's
Okay, I gotta let that play out. So yeah, God. So this, yeah, the in-engine stuff, it's still very polygonal, but my goodness, are there curves there where it counts? So yeah, I was mentioning it earlier about like the waifus and stuff like that, and Ari, wow, ticks off a couple of boxes, and jeez, like there's not much to say other than me just going goo goo gaga over it and pondering about like, obviously there's like it's like a cultural thing about like, oh, and nowadays everybody's looking at the boobs, or everybody's into the butts or the thighs. Like I'm not sure, but I think I feel like there's a lot of midriff going around in terms of like, this is the most desirable aspect. So I guess like, since the game somebody on the dev team was a very cultured person, and that it is just cycled around to that again, because yeah, I mean, clearly Ari has a lot of everything else, but yeah, the midriff. And I sure as hell would run away for 4 months to find a childhood friend like that, huh? It's just like one of my animes, or
not happy about the desert, but even less happy about Ari. And she leaves, despite the fact that I only have eyes for her. I already know Ari's only desire for Giacomo is to birth a child that's slightly higher up on the Aline caste system. I have no interest in her wicked plans. Let's get some things out of the way. Who are the Aline? They're dark, swarthy, Arabic, desert-dwelling wizards with cities that float in the sky. They summon elementals from circles of sand, fire, and glass. As there are no humans in this world, we must consider the next logical alternative. The Aline are Sicilians, and they're currently having a problem with a dark Aline. Basically, more alien debris crash-landed deep into the desert. Mind broke the genie Sawu, who created creatures of dark glass to overrun Mezakesh, the greatest Aline city ever built, which has ever since been buried under a mile of sand. But ever since the Doge passed through, promising to improve the situation, the Dark Aline have awoken in full force. Our only hope to stop whatever the Doge is planning is to find Mezakesh.
Your Highness, please. We must listen to...
Attack!
What?
Dark Aline in the city!
But before that,
I gotta get this off my chest. Sure wish she was on my chest. No. But, no, seriously, this is just, everybody starts simping, go down bad, like, it's right up there with, she's right up there with Chell from The Road to El Dorado, of like, this character design, what have you done? What have you unleashed upon the world?
We have a city to defend. This mission serves as the Aline tutorial, and it does a pretty good job of it. What's never mentioned, however, is that Giacomo's walker has been upgraded. His EVA unit is now equipped with a sunscreen. This is critical to the plot. Also, this campaign has a very annoying mechanic. Every time you kill any one of the free genies on the map, several turns later, they'll respawn randomly anywhere inside their territory. That is a problem because there's 3 of them and 1 of you. So the only valid tactic is to rush the bottom of the map as fast as possible and cut them off, funneling them into a choke where their numbers won't matter. Failure to do so results in your map looking like this. First, we take the Southern Dunes, where we get assaulted every night by waves of salamanders, which stop during the day, where you have a chance to attack their lairs and kill the BBW queen salamanders that keep spawning them. Then we murder the same genie that tricked us at the start and push on to the nest of dragons. Our objective here is to free a bunch of dragons before they're corrupted. However, the first dragon you free is so powerful he can free the rest on his own. Mission design in this game is either win by a hair's length or win by starting the mission. There is no in between. I had to pivot north because I was getting my shit pushed in, and the next mission was definitely more of a former. You have to hold out and defend a single oasis for 18 minutes while controlling 2 players at once. Giacomo from the south and Politori, a former Doge chemical warfare specialist from the north. The oasis has so little health that if anything so much as sneezes on it, it's gone. The last minute features a glass dragon that can one-shot the thing, and generally, it's complete and utter chaos. I push on to a generic skirmish map. A genie respawns right in front of us, who we proceed to murder in another generic skirmish. Then we take the Brightlands, which turns out to be a completely useless red herring. Before, I have to fight another skirmish to push back another genie. I push forward to the Fool's Path, which instead says Calahi's Desert in a loading screen. I feel drunk because I realize half the maps in this game don't even match the name of the mission. I load in, and to my horror, it's another generic skirmish. Luckily, the one after that is a real mission, and also our
So yeah, I think he gets into it a bit more as in the 3rd campaign, but I mean, so clearly it's a campaign, and the main draw are the cool scenarios, because otherwise you can just do a quick battle and get skirmishes against the AI with little customized teams, but you know, a normal battle over and over and over again. And yeah, it's basically, as he says, the quality. There must have been some sort of weird budgetary or direction problem as the project went on. It's a very front-loaded game, and so sadly, yeah, you're going to get most of the unique scenarios in the Vinci campaign, and you're going to get a decent amount of them in the Alin campaign, and it slowly trails off the unique, cool scenarios until, you know, you get the bare bones stuff at the very end. So still fond memories, but yeah, you don't get quite as many cool things, which is why he starts to speed through these. But you know, it's a shame, but still fondly remember this.
Our main objective. We need to subdue and capture the Sand Warden Declaw, who's currently going apeshit. To do this, we're going to beat the shit out of him. Unfortunately, the Dark Aline have the same idea, and it's a race to the finish. It's a battle of domestic violence, and only the stronger backhand will prevail. We're going to show Declaw the meaning of love in an Eastern European household. Declaw provides us with one of the keys to Mezakesh. Now, we just need the Key of Fire to the north. We proceed with the best mission of the entire game. Giacomo smokes that gas station weed, which inevitably has been laced with PCP.
Truzo, where are you? I'm lost.
This entire mission is just Giacomo tweaking out from the effects of a dark cloud.
The salamander is such a curious creature. I must find more of them.
You must escort him and keep him safe as he battles tactile hallucinations and metabolizes the corrupted chronic.
I've recovered from my madness.
We then free Andrew.
So yeah, just out of nowhere, pretty much you get the best escort mission, where it's the escort, being Giacomo, is still able to defend himself, sort of. I forget exactly how close it is, because you still have to defend him, obviously, but he's somewhat capable, and then you're at least keeps your morale up by having the hilarious lines as, yeah, fantasy steampunk guy trips balls on desert gas.
Dramalek, a glass magic user.
And also, yeah, it's like a weird thing where you can still fight the things that he's imagining, but it's like and you're taking damage. And I don't know, I forget if they only focus him, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's a world of magic, so whatever. Your troops, it's like your troops are spending energy to reassure him until he sobers up.
And subsequently rescue the Fire Warden Dominor. With both keys, we get access to Mezakesh. And then I rage quit the game anywhere from 20 to 30 times. Reasons may include Glass Golem boss fight that one-shots your heroes, Glass Golem boss fight that goes through damage immunity, Glass Spider boss fight that stuns your entire army, for which I had to learn the specific spawn conditions, so I could bait the screen-wide stun and sacrifice only half of my army instead. And of course, every time Destruzio fumbles a grenade, which is often. However, we persevere and defeat Sawu, who joins us after being freed from the alien sissy Hypno. If only it were that simple.
I don't recall. It's been so long since I went through the campaign, but I mean, I don't recall those being especially bad. Maybe I just got lucky with those bosses, those mini-bosses, focusing on my army instead. But it seemed like Seth was playing this on moderate difficulty. So I don't think it was, and I think I did as well. So again, I don't recall it being quite that bad. Maybe maybe it was because he's doing this for the review. I probably grinded out. I probably grinded out my stuff more if that helped, but I just don't recall.
My dear Giacomo, how have you been? I brought a toy for you to play with. Enjoy.
Luckily, Lenora's brought reinforcements. Together, while dodging payloads of insta-kill shells from across the map, you charge Vidoge's army and destroy his cannon. In exchange, you get this sick-ass cutscene where Giacomo wins by repairing a clock and pulling copper wire. Just as we achieve victory, an alien ship appears overhead to repo Vidoge's alien weapon. And that's the start of the third campaign. We follow the ship to the jungle, and there we find a couple of jungle dwellers who have been forcibly boosted by a couple tech levels. The Colossal represent the hybridization between the biology of the natives and the advanced technology of the aliens. If we take their appearance into account and the time period this game was released, the natives are basically Jaffa warriors from Stargate SG-1.
Woman, be silent.
That is not an answer, Tilk.
Come on, they even have staff weapons. Just like evidence of Thermite found at Ground Zero. This is probably just a coincidence. Anyway, we do the first mission and a cutscene plays, where
I don't know enough about Stargate. I think I know that guy, but that's probably the extent of it. But I mean, this just ties back into the interesting setting in the factions, right? Like the Vinci Italian steampunk instead of, normal space marine humans, the Arabian Nights magic fantasy, and then this kind of I'm so sorry that I'm not differentiating the two. The Aztec / Mayan stuff. I don't know the exact difference. I'm not about to Google it here to cheat. But yeah, just Middle American alien tech. It stands out more than a lot of normal factions. Just a great aesthetic. I love the Sun Guardians. I think you'll see them throughout the end of this video here. The giant bipedal things with a it's got like spines coming from its back, and it shoots a laser out of its arm. They'll probably be there were several, but those are some of my favorites.
Giacomo and Carlini defeat the Moon God, one of the 4 alien generals masquerading as theological beings on this planet. Unfortunately, another god shows up, and Carlini starts a monologue.
Just jumping off of the initial premise of like alien ships. This is like every conspiracy theory about the pyramids being created because of aliens helping early humans and stuff. And so here it's just like Middle America, crop circles and all the crazy things that we're not sure how such an early civilization was able to build. It's like it's like alien weird alien slash alien tech that just manipulates people into thinking they're gods. It's just actually pretty plausible. Some nut jobs around here.
So I immediately knew he was about to die.
I've been a soldier for 43 years.
Yeah, sudden backstory and
I've had my leg
monologue.
blown off. I've served in 2 wars. I've killed more men than I can count. I've never backed down from anything in my life. And I'm sure as hell not gonna start today.
Videf
No, Carlini, not your snipe ability. I loved your snipe ability.
God Zinn kills Carlini and takes the alien device stolen by the Doge. Wait a minute, wasn't that device taken by the...
I mean, and this is probably an example of some players, like the Pro ZD skit, of like, no, Carlini! I put so many experience points into you.
alien ship in the last cutscene? Apparently no. Sorry for the confusion. I had to watch this multiple times to figure out that Giacomo shot down that aircraft off screen. Also, Giacomo
I'm sorry, I just hit Ari being on screen again.
took a full hit of the alien device juice. He can now convert base metals into AliExpress quartz crystals. Using this newfound power, he spliced his mech into the dead body of the moon god.
We'll march out at sunrise.
Our objective is getting justice for my homeboy Carlini by killing the remaining free gods. So we do exactly that. We murder Zil, the sun god, to the south. We murder Shock, the storm goddess, to the north. There are unique missions here and there, but for the sake of time, I'm skipping over them. Except the cargo escort mission, which is completely rigged and designed to give you an aneurysm. The Colossal are quite fun to play, mainly
So yeah, pretty much like he says, there are a couple unique missions here, but there are so few by this point that you're just speeding through skirmishes. You really want to build up that military so you can just steamroll those generics, but it's a shame. Who knows I don't know what the heck was going on at this point.
because they're completely different to any other faction. They don't use gold because they don't trade. This is replaced instead by energy, which is produced by nuclear reactors. They can turbocharge any dwelling to print units faster, and their basic barracks is actually a flying troop carrier. But nothing compares to my favorite unit, the Dick Flattening Sphere, which has the strongest trample in the entire game, deleting entire screens worth of troops just by moving over them. Finally, we reach the
So yeah, the Coatl, I like them a lot too. Like I said, I think that Sun Idol is probably one of my more favorite units, just ahead of a lot of the Vinci steampunk tech. The it'd probably be cheaty to cite a super unit as your favorite, because each of the faction super units are super cool. But yeah, probably the basic Clockwork Man after that from the Vinci. I played enough Legos and Kinects as a kid that, yeah, a lot of the steampunk aesthetic also spoke to me a lot. And then it's like steampunk / modern tanks, so it's like the best of both worlds kind of meshed together.
last mission of Rise of Legends, stopping the Death God Zinn. If he isn't stopped within 60 minutes, he will activate the alien Skype call and destroy life as we know it. But his position is fortified by free barriers, which have to be destroyed on both sides. All the forces, heroes, and upgrades you've acquired during the previous campaigns will be there to support you for this final assault. With the Vinci on the left and the Aline on the right, you have to simultaneously control both armies and push past their defenses, which may include mechanized guerrillas, until the barriers shut down, at which point Giacomo's colossal forces break through the center. Completing the mission rewards you with his cutscene. Giacomo, realizing the Skype call has already connected, jumps forward with a $2 microphone and screams racial slurs, the intensity of which explodes the relay. At first I thought, where's Giacomo? Obviously he survived, right? It wasn't until the cutscene was over that I finally registered that he's dead. It's a very somber ending, and I don't like to grieve for too long. So I rewrote the ending to suit my own headcanon. Yes, Giacomo did sacrifice himself, but plot twist. Same day we defeated Vidoge, conveniently, Lenora was ovulating. This could only mean one thing. Rise of Legends 2 would be a real-time strategy where you must both conquer the battlefield and morning sickness. Campaigns become increasingly more difficult as you swell and become increasingly more pregnant. Available now on Xbox Game Pass. In summary, Rise of Legends gets a floating Rubik's Cube out of however many men are currently inside. It's great, I love it, and I enjoyed it just as much as I did an entire decade ago. Why did I cover this? Because they're memories and I don't want them lost to the sands of time. Unfortunately, the publisher is Microsoft, and we've already made contact. They don't give a shit. It's not distributed or sold anywhere, making this game effectively abandonware. Now, I wouldn't want to directly link to a download page for this game for obvious reasons. However, I can't possibly moderate my entire comment section. So if, hypothetically, somebody showed up and linked the entire game and a bunch of people just upvoted it to the top comment, then what could I possibly do to stop this? So please don't do that, because each time you commit piracy of an abandoned IP that's not making any money for the parent company, there's a DMCA lawyer out there who gets an additional kidney stone that he has to shoot out of his burning urethra. As always, more content to come, so stay tuned. A warm thanks to the many members of the Merchants Guild generously funding and bankrolling these neutral settlement acquisitions. This episode is brought to you by Pastificio Centoni. This is not a joke. You are not dissociating. The original reason I made this video was to plug a pasta sponsor, because I thought it was the funniest shit in the world that an Italian B2B pasta manufacturer decided one day that contacting me was the best use of their resources. Keep your money. The joke has paid for itself. You're all truly wonderful. Have a good one.
So yeah, the soundtrack is awesome. I don't know about... I could let it play out a lot, but it's almost 2 more minutes. But and this is, oh my gosh, this has almost been an hour. But I mean, I don't know. I think I gave some decent insights. Nobody wants to hear me. Shut up. Just watch the Seth video again. I should look up who did the soundtrack. There's so many things. It's like I said, keeping in mind which publishers do what, which developers did what, when individual programmers and directors and voice actors and musicians leave companies, where they go after that, right? So it's like memorizing the name does nothing after everybody leaves. There's just so much to keep track of. I feel bad that I can't, support all these amazing people. Obviously, the monetary stuff on top of that, but even just having the mental space to do all that. Kind of like how Seth has to keep track of all of these patrons and stuff. Wow. These unit designs are so cool. Yeah, I love these sand horrors that you can get when you use the Scorpion King or whatever unit as the Alin. And yeah, it's showcasing some of the mega units. Those are some of the most fun. So yeah, there he showcased the flying castle that the Quaddle use, the glass dragon, and the land leviathan. Fun times. So yeah, I mean, it's a Rise of Legends review. This isn't an incognito tab, so I promise I should go. I'm pretty sure I liked the video, but yeah, fun part of history, and who knows if somebody will make a sequel somehow, but I highly doubt it. That's an entire discussion to be had about franchises and IPs and the profit to be made. We could go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, who's going to take a risk on reviving this thing, and whether somebody's going to cut corners, and bring up like Warcraft 3 Reforged, and again, No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077. Would you even trust certain people with certain things. So I mean, it's fine. Yeah, that part of him where he was saying like, I don't want my memories lost to the sands of time. It just the nostalgia lives on, I suppose. So yeah, I don't know anybody who stuck through a freaking hour of me rambling about some of the stuff I loved while while enjoying some of Seth's shenanigans. But yeah, thanks for spending time with me. Take care, everyone.